All right, we have with us two Liberty legends actually. Kyle DeArmond's been joining us every week so far here, and then we have with us Gabe Henderson, guest coming to us from Minneapolis, Minnesota, or somewhere near that area. Gabe works for the Vikings. Gabe, tell us what you're up to, and yeah, man, how you been doing? Good to see you.
I'm good. You started off wrong. There's one Liberty legend on this call, and that's Cal DeArmond. So
No, that's
uh,
false.
I just I just so happen to be an alum. But here in Minnesota, not too cold as of yet. So we got snow October 14th, but today is
That's
68
just wrong.
degrees. So outside of that, man, just working 6-1. I mean, we all know once you start winning, things kind of feel better than what they actually are. So just soaking in this moment right now. But things have been great, man. The wife and I bought a house not long ago, so I would say we are official Minnesotans now. I think this is something we can embrace now. So it's been good to finally get adjusted to calling somewhere, I guess, home.
Gabe, tell the new Liberty fans maybe who haven't been following you, who don't follow you on social media, what exactly you are doing for the Vikings.
Yeah, so I'm the on-air talent for the Minnesota Vikings. So I do all of our interviews, all of our podcast, and I mean, long story short, I just make sure the team looks good. I try to paint them in a positive light, and people would somehow tune in. So that's been something that God has really been a blessing in my life with is helping get some of those stories out there, share some light on who these guys are, and just a little insight of certain day-to-day things that happen in a NFL building that a lot of people clamor for. So I love being able to provide that knowledge and also just bring the viewer and the player closer to one another, because I mean we're all humans at the end of the day, and being able to share some of those stories, Kyle, like you, we've been in these locker rooms, like we understand some of the lingo and some of the needs and some of the wants, and being able to use that knowledge has been valuable, and hopefully it can continue to grow as time goes on.
Yeah, I like what you said there to paint the team in a positive light. Kyle and myself, we're Team Liberty. We're doing the
Hey,
same thing. That's what we do, and we're trying to just do the podcast and all that stuff to kind of paint Liberty in a positive light. So, with that being said, you've been gone for what 5 years now, so four maybe. How I guess in the since you've left, how's the perception of Liberty, especially up there where you're at, and then around the NFL? How's the perception of Liberty changed even since you've been out of school? Are people, do they know about it? Do they care about it? And is it just a lot different reaction you get around town or in the NFL offices or buildings that you're in?
yeah, I would say the perception of Liberty is definitely changing as far as from when I played to now. When people think of Liberty right now, especially in the NFL, they think of Malik Willis. Like he was, supposed to have been he was the number one quarterback on a lot of people's, pre mock draft boards. And I remember just like wearing, Liberty sweaters and Liberty jackets around the facility. And I would have people come up to me and was like, how good is Malik? Is Malik that guy? And I was like, I mean, he's got a strong arm. He can make plays, and, just trying to be a positive light without, interfering with what they do for a living. But, Liberty is still, held with high regard, no matter where you go. Especially now that the sports are starting to come into the fold as far as like being prominent. And I think that's helped as far as when you see someone from Liberty, you kind of know where the school is. Before you were like, hold on, where's Liberty again? Like, what? Oh, that's Virginia. Now people will be like, okay, what part of Virginia is that in? How far is that from UVA or Virginia Tech? So the perception is changing day by day. And I feel like it's the more that we continue to have, guys going into the NFL or, making strides on the national level, Liberty is going to continue to be shined on in a positive light. So that's
Now,
been good
Gabe,
to
you,
see.
you mentioned obviously being in an NFL locker room, being in an NFL facility, and going through the draft process with the Vikings. Um, what's your perception, your personal perception now of seeing NFL talent? Because when we played, I think everybody thought, oh man, I can play in the NFL. I play college football. I could go to
Right.
play the NFL. But now that you're there, and you're there on a daily basis, and you see the talent and how talented these guys are. You know, kind of bring some, maybe bring Liberty fans back to reality a little bit, or, kind of speak into what they think of, man, we got a lot of NFL talent on this roster. And some of these guys, think of Demario Douglas, Darrell Johnson, guys that have the potential to play at the next level. I mean, what do you see in those two guys specifically in regards to their opportunity, their chances, just from a skill set to play at the next level?
Yeah, both of those guys are ballers, man. And I know I don't say that lightly because I think both of those guys can play at the next level. But just from my experience, just being in the league and seeing how the scouts and the front office evaluates talent, it kind of took me aback because you look at certain guys and how they perform, and it's like, man, like this guy could be a high pick, and then they weigh that with certain traits versus certain size, and then strength of schedule, and then how do they play against a certain guy that they thought an offensive lineman should be or a certain player should have been graded out. Like if they play well against a fourth rounder versus a second rounder, that affects their grade on the draft board. So that process is very intricate. I mean, these scouts spend 9 months out the year literally just scouting one region of the country, and they basically compile all of their notes and then bring that back and say, like, okay, this guy can play football, but I don't know if he fits on our roster. Like we run a 3-4. He played in a 4-3, so I don't think he fits what we got to do. That doesn't mean he's not a good player, but as I've continued to see how that process worked, I look at it as like, okay, whoever is the best fit will get drafted the highest. Of course, you have like your guys like your Bryce Youngs and your CJ Strouds of the world that'll go first round. But once you start getting into, pick number 20, like that's when the scouting starts. That's when, those grades of, okay, how did DeMario play against ODU? Or how did DeMario play against BYU? Okay, well, I think this guy from BYU is a future second rounder. Like, so all of that comes into effect. So, man, it's such an intricate process. Like, it's a process that I would not want to be a part of. I would hate to be a scout.
You're glad you're not on the scouting side.
Oh my gosh, man! Like they spend so many hours just like focusing on like hand placement. I'm like, dude, like his hand was 2 yards out, 2 inches outside of the numbers. Like, who cares about that? But it goes a long way. So there's a lot of value in it, and I think that's all that scouting has come to is what can I get for the most. What can I get for my value? Like, yeah, like think about Malik Willis, right? He was number 1 QB on a lot of people's mock draft boards. Well, a lot of people had certain faults and certain strengths for him. It was like, well, is this guy a starter, or do you want him to learn under a system where he doesn't have to be the guy? And I think Malik is in a really good system right now where, he can learn. I mean, he got a win this week. He was 6 of 10 for 55 yards, but a win is a win. So look at Taylor Heineke from ODU. It's like not the most talented guy, but the guy knows how to win. And that factors into scouting also. So it's going to continue to grow as, these athletes continue to develop. And I mean, Kyle, like a receiver when we played, how we scouted that versus a receiver now is like completely different. So the game's
it's
evolving.
crazy. Yeah. I mean, I think about, like when I played, so in 2010, my senior year, Gabe was a freshman, and Gabe was the only freshman receiver who traveled and played. And we were, I mean, him and I both played because of a ton of injuries. I'll say that. Gabe as a freshman, Gabe probably wasn't supposed to play, just being, young and us having some depth at wideout, then, get a bunch of injuries and he gets thrown into that. You end up redshirting the next year, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like senior year redshirt. But if you think about like, those years, and then even, like in 2014, when Liberty played Coastal and beat them, and they were number 1 in the country, and then go on to the playoffs and do things like that. I mean, how crazy is it to you that Liberty is a top 25 program, ranked 23 in the country, 8 years after Liberty got to the FCS playoffs for the very first time? I mean, is it as crazy to you as it is, kind of to me and Chad and everybody else?
Yeah, man, I really can't even It's still kind of speechless for me. I never forget on Monday when I saw. Well, when was it? It was last week. It might have been Sunday when I saw the AP poll and the coaches poll come out, and Liberty was like 23. I was like, oh wow, like this is crazy. And it kind of goes back to, I feel old saying this, but like us, setting that bar, like when you left, setting that bar of like, okay, this is where we want Liberty football to be in years to come. And the fact that Liberty, beat BYU at home, like that's one of Jerry Falwell's missions. I mean, beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame and BYU. Like it seems like yesterday, but it is still like forever ago. I mean, that was so long ago. But yeah, man, I still can't even put words on it of like how I feel about it. Like I'm very proud. Like I'm very happy. These guys deserve it. The facilities, the campus, like everything is trending upward, which is what's allowing these recruits to actually say, okay, like I want to commit to Liberty. And I'm a firm, hard commit to this school. So man, it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for a lot of people, but I'm happy to see where this program is going and where it's headed.
Kyle, you kind of took my question there, but just to add a little bit to that, the beginning part of that is, did you have that, like when you were at Liberty, and Kyle too, you answer this as well. Did you guys have that same vision of like, to me, I couldn't see this happening. I thought it wouldn't be my whole lifetime before we saw these top 25 rankings and winning these big games. I didn't know if we would ever see it. As players committing to the school to play and being out there, is it something you guys could envision ever happening, or is this all like a surprise? Like, wow, this came a lot quicker, and I didn't expect this at all.
I can definitely say I saw it. Like I definitely envisioned it because it's kind of funny. Like I remember, Kyle, you probably remember too. Like we used to have like team meetings where whether it was Jeff Barber or someone would come in and be like, hey, like we're putting in our bid to go FBS here pretty soon. And hopefully we
felt like that was every year, right?
Every year. So like it gave us like this false hope of like, oh man, like we can be FBS, like we can play with some of these big schools. And then Kyle, I think it was your senior year, we played Kent State, Miami of Ohio, and we beat them. And I was
Ball
like
State.
Ball State, yeah, my bad. Ball State. And I was like the first glimmer of hope of like, oh, this can really happen. Like we can actually make some noise. Like we can play in the MAC. Like if we can beat MAC teams, like we can continue to build towards something. So I saw it, but it's still
probably not at like the level that it got to of beating ACC and Power 5 schools. Because I'm right there with you. Like when we played Kent State and when we played, Ball State and Toledo, we play those schools. You kind of look at it and look at the rosters and look at the film and like we can play with these guys. We can compete with them. But on the flip side, playing a Power 5 team back then, it was like, you kind of had a reality of like, we just gonna get paid here, but we ain't got no real shot. But then you go into the games and we ain't beating Alabama. But you go into a game against like Wake Forest or NC State, and it's like, oh, we kind of got a shot here. But I think that like Chad, you have, like Gabe said, I think from 2008, like starting in 2008, they were like, hey, we're going FBS. We're going FBS. We're going FBS. We're going FBS. I think they use the we're going FBS recruiting pitch on like kids, like all the way up until the point, they use that from like 2008 forever. I mean, I know I used it being like, we're on FBS and the parent being like, when? It's like, well, I don't know. And in my head, I'm thinking like, they told me that about 7 years ago. So, I mean, hopefully by the time you graduate, but no, I mean, like, playing Arkansas this week at Arkansas,
it's crazy.
Ranked 23 in the country. I mean, it's awesome. It's fun. It's fun to be a Liberty alumni, and it's fun to, wear your gear and like Gabe said, your Liberty stuff around town, and people will be like, "Oh, Liberty, did you go there?" And it's a fun time for sure.
So, Gabe, one last one for me about and it's not Liberty related, but I am a huge Paul Allen fan and love what he does. Yeah, dude, I love that guy. Like he is the probably one of the reasons that I got into like this thing of
Oh,
podcasting
wow.
and talking about my team and stuff like that. He's a pioneer, and I guess what I want to know, he's larger than life and just like completely like I don't know, energized and full of himself all the time on air. When he cuts the microphone off, is he like just moping around the hallways, or is he really Paul Allen, like dapping everybody up, calling you main man all the time? Is that really how he is?
Paul, what you see on what you hear on camera and on radio and what you see on TV is Paul condensed. Like his personality is bigger when he's off camera. Like he is, man. I've never, like, we got a running joke, right, Kyle, that like we've never met anybody like Sir Chauncey Holloway. Like,
Right.
still to this day, like that's Paul Allen. Like I've never met anybody like Paul Allen. He's one of a kind, and if he ever changes, I would think something is wrong with him. Like I have plenty of stories with that guy. I spend 4 or 5 days with him a week, and he's one of the most genuine guys I met, but he's also one of the most entertaining people I've met in my life. Also, it's like the guy he doesn't stop talking, he doesn't stop dancing. Like you would think he was 13 the way he like carries himself, but he's a wizard. He works hard, doesn't call in for sick days. Like he's a. I mean, the word wordsmith is thrown around a lot, but I've seen Paul like study words, like have a list of words and just study words, and that's the reason why he's so good now. And the fact that he can like infuse his personality with his words, make it a thing. There's a reason why he has one of the top radio shows in America. Like the guy is just he's amazing, man. I
Awesome.
got so many things to say about him. I'll
That's
have to tell him you said that.
that's awesome. Thank you, Kyle. You got anything else?
Yeah, tell him to listen to the pod Tuesday nights
Yeah.
for live stream. Yeah,
Yeah.
just tell him to check in. No,
Honestly,
Gabe,
Paul
go ahead.
is a guy that if I told him, Paul would listen to it and be like, he would have like Paul would listen to it and
We need some critiques. We need some game film review and critiques, right, Chad?
No, Paul's at the horse track. He calls horse races on the weeknights, so he's
That's how
busy.
he
But
started.
I know, man. It's awesome. Hey,
Wow.
Gabe, it is so good to see you, man. So good to see you thriving. Being a Vikings fan, love that you're up in Minnesota, but the way you're doing it and carrying yourself up there, it is a great representation of the school. Love having you on talking about Liberty, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Appreciate
Yeah,
you,
Gabe,
man. Shout out.
tell everybody where they can follow you and give yourself a shameless plug here for
Man.
the Liberty fans.
You can follow me at Gabe A. Henderson. And if you're following me, you should follow at Cal_DeArmond and at Chad Ashley. Both of those guys do great work. Like, honestly, I know this kind of sounds cliche, but I remember A Sea of Red came out. Like, I really started hearing about it like my end of my sophomore junior year, so like 2012, 2013. And to see where you guys have like taken this thing, man, like it's exciting to see. I feel like for anybody who wants to have a career in this field, like this is like what you guys are doing and what you guys have done is like next level, man. Like I think you're a testament of like, believing in your dreams, like a little small school in Liberty, FCS, that's, just trying to compete for tying for a Big South championship. And the fact that you guys were, telling stories and giving guys light, man, I'm happy for the team, but with team success, everybody that's a part of that gets elevated also. So the fact that, you guys are getting more views, more eyes, like I'm excited. And, Kyle being, former player, former coach, coming on the show, I mean, that adds credibility to whatever you're doing. So anybody that has like inside knowledge adds credibility. So, man, like this, I love what you guys are doing, man. Keep it up.
Thanks. Appreciate that. And Kyle can't give too much insider or we'll get our hand slapped or a text or something like that the next day. So we gotta walk that line. But hey, man, awesome. Listen, next time we have you on, I want to show some highlights of the Coastal game that'll live in infamy.
Oh,
Loved that game. That was incredible performance.
that's a great idea.
One of the best slot receiver performances in Liberty history, in my opinion. So we'll have to get that and pull out the old tape. I don't know, have to blow some dust off of it wherever we can find it.
Gabe Henderson and Mike Brown, Chad, they're basically on the same level because they both played quarterback and receiver at Liberty. So you can really,
both number 10 too, right?
You could really throw them, just at the same level, right, Gabe? Isn't that the same thing?
Man, two different spectrums. Same number, two different spectrums. Mike. I mean, Mike's one of your best friends too, Kyle. Just a great person, but yeah. Just rewind back to that St. Francis game, Kyle's senior year, when he hit the sideline and scored a touchdown. I'll never forget that moment.
All right, we're done with we're going too far here. Cut us off.
No,
we're done, Chad. We're done.
No, listen, I don't know if we'll ever be able to find that tape. I don't know. I don't know if that tape
No,
exists.
yeah, I don't think it doesn't. We had video. It was on video, VCR, VHS. Yeah, I don't even remember what it's called. See?
Awesome. Gabe, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Gabe.
Appreciate you.